Good afternoon, card community. It is RJ, and it is time for the Sunday Trivia Recap. Hooray! Loud cheers, applause, mass hysteria, dogs and cats living together, the end of civilization as we know it. Yet still there's time for some cool trivia and prizes, so let's get to it. All right. So, this past week I decided to go with this day in baseball history questions. I kind of liked it. I think I'm going to extend that through the month of March as I do my trivia. Hard to do sometimes, especially in March because it's spring training time, so it's hard to find interesting things that happened in baseball. But you know, we will succeed. We will press on. We will come up with some good ones for you. Okay. In fact, we had 3 great ones last week, so let's talk about them. Monday, March the 6th was Monday. So on this day in baseball history, March the 6th, in 1987, the Chicago Cubs signed themselves a free agent, an individual who had played his entire career up to that point with the Montreal Expos, but wanted to get out of Montreal and wanted to play on a field with natural grass because it was damaged. The pounding from the turf was damaging his knees. So he wanted to go to a natural grass field, so much so that he took a very big pay cut. I shouldn't say a pay cut. He signed for much less than he could have gotten if he had gone elsewhere, just so he could play on natural grass. And I think he liked Chicago at the time. And he had such a great year to prove that he was worth the trade and worth more. He had such a great year. He won the National League MVP award in 1987. Who was that man? Mr. Andre Dawson. A lot of people had that right. This is a 1988 Fleer League Leader card, which shows his stats in 1987. In fact, he led the league with home runs in 49. He had 137 RBIs, and he batted .287. So he had a heck of a year, as a player that year. So congrats to Mr. Dawson for his MVP caliber season. The prize you are playing for is this here 1994 Topps card. This is part of the flagship base set. It is not an insert. It is not something special. It's not a parallel. It is card number 715, obviously honoring Hank Aaron's 715th home run, which had happened 20 years prior. This is kind of the turn back the clock card from that year's Topps set. Told you what happened 60, 40, and 20 years ago in those eras. So this is what you're praying for. Everybody up on the screen was kind enough to throw out a guess. So you are all entered. Let me show you the bottom name so you don't think I missed you. There you go. We will shuffle once and spin. You must hit 3 times on my channel because I like to draw out the suspense a little bit. So good luck to everybody. And here we go. So as I am filming this video, it is Sunday. Yesterday, Saturday, I had the fortune to go to the Philly show, one of the bigger card shows in the country annually. Has been happening in this region since the 70s. It's been here a long time. And all the big name people show up. It was a huge autograph show this year. It was absolutely mobbed, very, very crowded because of the autograph list. They had a lot of the Eagles players were here. Some of the legends of baseball were here, including 3 legendary Phillies from the 1980 team, Schmidt, Rose, and Carlton, were all together. You can get their signatures and a photo op with them. So I did not. I used to be heavily into autographs. I'll tell that story in a second. But in this particular case, the pricing, let's take a step back. Hang on a second here. We will continue that story in a moment. Tommy Markwell has hit 3 times, so congrats to Tommy Markwell. Tommy, you'll be getting this awesome Hank Aaron card. So congrats to you, sir, on that one. All right. We're going to move on to Wednesday now. Wednesday's question. For Wednesday's question, On this day in baseball history, this would have been March the 8th, was Wednesday. This day in baseball history, March the 8th, talked about something that happened in 2017. The Ohio State Legislature passed a resolution proclaiming that October the 7th, every year forward, would be set aside to honor this individual. October the 7th was this man's birthday. That's why they chose that date. But they enacted the resolution on March the 8th in 2017. This individual that they were so honoring was the first openly African-American player on a major league team at the time. In 1884 he played for the Toledo Blue Stockings, sometimes referred to as the Mud Hens. The Toledo Blue Stockings, which were a member of the American Association at the time, also known as, they were considered a major league, the equivalent in talent of the National League. So the American Association was considered a major league at the time. And I said, name that individual who was the first openly African-American baseball player ever, at least the first known openly African-American ball player in a major league. Name that player, and it is Moses Fleetwood Walker. Here he is on his 2020 Negro League set. It was a set produced to honor all the past legends of the Negro Leagues. And you can see here, Moses Fleetwood Walker. It's interesting, the last sentence, I want to read this for you, talks about he played with a pitcher named Tony Mullane. Tony Mullane was a very he was a very capable and well-known, well-respected pitcher back in the early days of baseball. And he says here, he was, like too many people at the time, were very racist. And he says here, Walker, this is what Tony Mullane said, Walker is the best catcher I ever worked with, but I disliked a Negro, and whenever I had to pitch to him, I used to pitch him anything I wanted without looking at his signals. So Mark Walker was a catcher, if you're keeping score there. And it sounds like, Mullane later in life was probably interviewed and talked about it. And he said, I guess I don't know if he had changed his ways or was willing to compliment Moses Fleetwood Walker at the time. But you could see, he said he was the best catcher he ever, played with, but he still didn't care. So interesting, the abuse the men had to face at the time. Anyway, the prize you're playing for, 1984 Topps Tony Gwynn card. And I also, since I was doing Donruss, the 1992 McDonald's Canadian MVP set, I threw in this Cal Ripken card from that set. So you'll get those two cards. And the people on the wheel up front here were kind enough to throw out a guess for this one. Tommy Markwell, you won on the Monday when you are out, sir, from the Wednesday. You cannot win twice. You can only win once on my channel in a week. So, Tommy, you are out for this one. So, again, as we do, we will shuffle once and spin. Good luck to everybody on this one, all right? You got to hit 3 times. Here we go. So I was saying, as far as pricing is concerned, when I first started collecting, when I first started going to shows, my first baseball card show I ever attended was in 1989. There's a place where I live called the Allentown Fairgrounds nearby. I don't live in Allentown, but up in Pennsylvania, the Allentown Fairgrounds, and appearing that weekend, okay, just to tell you about the price of autographs, how it's changed. This is 1989, all right? Appearing that weekend was Jim Palmer, who was a newly minted Hall of Famer at that time, but also Ted Williams and Mickey Mantle, all right? I've told this story a number of times, but it's such an amazing story when you consider Jim Palmer autographs were going for $12 a pop. So you get Jim Palmer autograph, anything you wanted, for $12. Mickey Mantle and Ted Williams each would have cost you $35. So for $35, you could get a Mickey Mantle signed ball or a Ted Williams signed baseball. And back at that time, too, it was my passion to get autographed baseballs. And that first show, I didn't realize, I'm sorry, I'm still talking too much. Three Good Nerds just hit for a third time. So congrats to the individuals over at the Three Good Nerds, all three of you. You're going to get these two great cards for your efforts. I appreciate your support, gentlemen. So moving on to Friday. Friday's question. All right, on this day in baseball history, we're up to March the 10th. On this day in baseball history, March the 10th, 2005. So spring training 2005, this Cardinals player, a former pitcher, was actually in the lineup in the spring training in order to try his hand as a position player. In other words, this individual started as a pitcher, and what had happened is he simply lost the ability to throw strikes. For whatever reason, the mental aspect of the game began to slip from him, and he no longer could throw strikes, having a very promising career ahead of him. He's looked at very highly as a pitching prospect. His first year, it was 1999, just a cup of coffee with the Cardinals that year. Started for them in the 2000 season, went 11-7 with a 3.50 ERA and 194 strikeouts. So the kid could throw some smoke. And then all of a sudden it all went south for him. He couldn't throw a strike. But he wasn't always considered a decent batter for a pitcher. So the Cardinals organization gave him a shot and said, well, gee, maybe we can just throw him in the outfield somewhere. And he went on to have a fairly decent career as a Cardinals outfielder. And because he was a pitcher, he was known to have a cannon of an arm, if you think about it. In fact, when MLB Network did their rating of the top defensive arms, this guy made their top 9, their prime 9. So who was that player? Rick Ankiel. Rick Ankiel, here he is as a pitcher early in his career. This is a 2001 Topps card. And that's his stats. Here he is in the 2009 Topps offering as an outfielder now. And you can see on the back from 2001, you know, it was in the middle of the end of 2000 that he lost the mental aspect got him. At the end of 2000, he couldn't throw anymore. So next year, 2001, you know, they hoped he'd come back in spring training. He was only able to get into 6 games before they had to cut him because he just couldn't do it anymore. Then 2005, you know, he tried to come back in 2004, couldn't do it still. He was just trying to get his head right. And then 2005, he got into a spring training game, but it took him a couple of years. You can see here he didn't come up again until 2007, and he cracked the starting lineup for a couple of years with the Cardinals. So Mr. Rick Ankiel is your answer. The prize you're playing for, 2020 Topps Allen Ginter Mike Schmidt Mini with the Allen Ginter back. Very cool card if you're a Mike Schmidt collector. That's what you're playing for. The individuals on the screen here were kind enough to throw out a guess for us. Tommy Markwell, again, you are out. You cannot win but once. Three Good Nerds did not throw out an answer to this question, so they are not involved in this spin. We will shuffle once, as always. Spin, you must hit 3 times. Good luck to everybody on this one. Yeah, so I was saying, an autograph of Mickey Mantle and Ted Williams, $35 a piece. Can you believe it? Can you imagine? This weekend, Mike Schmidt was selling, well, he wasn't selling, again, if you know how autograph shows work, there's a flat fee paid to the guest, and then the promoter charges what he thinks is necessary to recoup that investment. The promoter was charging $175 for a Mike Schmidt autograph. I can go on the Bay and buy 2 autographs from Mike Schmidt for that price. I have met Schmidt. You know, I don't know Mike Schmidt obviously, but I have been in his presence at least 2 times to get his autograph. So I've had that experience. I don't need it again. I'm not looking forward to it, and I'm not going to spend $175 for his autograph. To stand and get a picture with Rose, Carlton, and Schmidt, that alone was $400. So the prices are just getting outrageous for the card shows. So, you know, I figure if I want a autographed baseball from Mike Schmidt sometime in the future, I'll just buy one. Probably is going to cost me $175, but, you know, what are you going to do? Oh, we got a third hit. Adam, over at Adam's Card Closet. Congrats, sir. You are the proud recipient of this Mike Schmidt mini. Congrats on that, sir. So anyway, those are the trivia questions and answers and the winners for this week. That is my story about some card collecting and autograph collecting history. I hope you enjoyed that. We will be doing more trivia, questions and prizes next week, as always. There'll be a lot of great things to see, showing off some of my haul from the show. Didn't get a lot, so I stopped at my LCS and got more. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. I want to really appreciate everybody for supporting me. Thanks for stopping by once in a while to enter my contest. I appreciate it. Please consider like, subscribing, commenting, all that jazz. Thanks a lot. See you next week. Take care.